Everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Think Tank Thursday. I'm Kelley and excited to be your host this week. Before we begin, I will have to give a shout out to my 2023 Think Tank sponsors. You see them on the side there. We've got Betson, Delta Strike, Redemption Plus, Simnox, and Roller. And our guest today comes from Roller, and I'm so excited. She's a return guest on Think Tank, and we all love her. So just a second, I'll reveal who that is. But you guys know that on Thursdays, Trainertainment likes to take a little bit of time away from the doing and spend some time thinking. And we have the biggest trade show of our industry coming up right around the corner. And so I invited Alyse Sklover, who is currently with Roller, but who has attended IAAPA as an attendee. She has worked for IAAPA, and she has been an exhibitor for IAAPA and an exhibitor booth planner. Like that's kind of her role now. And so she has seen it from all of the facets. And so as we all get ready and start to prepare for this amazing event, I invited her on so we can talk about her experience. So why don't we jump in and see what good tidbits Alyse has to share with us. Alyse, welcome back to Think Tank Thursday. You know I love having you on as a guest each time you come.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. For those who may not know who you are, how is that possible? Why don't you take a minute to introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit more about you and let them know about Roller and then your position there.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been doing events. My name's Alyse, obviously. I've been doing events for about 20 years, and I've been in the attractions industry on and off for my whole career. Probably about just over 10 years in this most recent stint. I was with Kennedy Space Center for about 5 years at the visitor complex doing events and some education programming there. And then I was with IAAPA as the FEC liaison for through the pandemic. So it felt like 45 years, but I think it was around 3. And then now I spent a little bit of time at Escapology doing marketing for them. And now I'm with Roller as the senior manager of events and partnerships. So as if anybody doesn't know who Roller is, we're just a software company that handles venue management and all that kind of stuff. So I handle the trade shows and all that kind of stuff.
I know. IAAPA is right around the corner, which is one of the reasons I wanted to invite Alyse to Think Tank, because I don't know if there's anyone else that I know who understands IAAPA or trade shows from the many different facets as she does, because she has worked at IAAPA, she has been an exhibitor, and she has been an attendee. And so to see it from all of the different angles, do you mind sharing like what your various involvements have been, like how many times you've gone to IAAPA, like different things like that?
Yeah, so I've done trade shows throughout my career in different industries, but as far as IAAPA is concerned, I started as an attendee, like most of us do, lost, just usually with a mission to find like one product to help the property I worked at, or like one problem solving issue. So it was usually just going to those specific areas and looking into those items. I think I only did a little bit of education prior, just because we just never gave ourselves the amount of time. I know time is such a valuable commodity for operators, especially in the FEC space, because we usually wear 55 hats. And then when I was with IAAPA, I did a lot of the education programming and anything that really had FEC in the title. So whether it was the FEC reception, the rookies and newcomers program, any of the education sessions, the lunches, some of the show floor tours, I made sure that was content. I made sure to work with the committee to make sure that the content was valuable for our constituency and was delivered in a way that was beneficial for people. So experience from that angle is such a wild thing, because you see how much really goes into it. Same way I felt working in a theme park or an amusement park, is to see, why some things might cost the way they do, because there's so much that goes into making that happen. And just being a part of IAAPA, seeing like the start to finish of the planning and execution, and just what a big beast it is. It's such a huge show. And then I got to exhibit for Escapology, which was a smaller booth with a bit of a self-build kind of situation. It was just bringing in some props from the rooms and, our normal collateral type items, to now with Roller, It's a 1,600 square foot booth, and it's, hanging signs and building items and logistics for 15 people, 16 people to be in the booth, and all the things that come along with it. So I've ran the gamut of all of them, and it's a very different experience at each of them, to be perfectly honest.
There are apartments smaller than the booth you're managing.
Yeah, my house is actually just around the size of the booth. So yeah, I'm definitely familiar.
What's your favorite way to attend?
There's different, I'm not trying to be that person right now.
No.
Just being an attendee is less stress, right? But when I was just an attendee, I didn't know a lot of people there. I didn't know the vendors. It wasn't like this homecoming experience. When I worked at IAAPA the first year, it was only a couple of weeks into starting. So I think it was my third week at IAAPA, I was at the trade show. And they did not give me leeway to get used to things. I was running rookies and newcomers on my own. And then getting to do the next trade show from the IAAPA perspective and knowing people, it was this wonderful homecoming. But when you work for the IAAPA staff, this is not always a known thing, but we start at 7 a.m. Our first meeting of the day is 7 a.m. And most of us are at events that go till, as you guys all know, sometimes 11 at night. I used to get back to my hotel room and I would actually do my hair and makeup at night. And I would get into bed in my pajamas with hair and makeup. And then I would just freshen up in the morning, because I knew I could stay up a little bit later, but waking up in the morning, I wanted every second. And then as an exhibitor, it's really fun too, because you have obligations, but not quite as much as an IAAPA staff member. I'll let you know about with Roller.
Okay.
I mean, it'll be my first year. I think this one, we have more people there, so that'll be great. I don't have to worry about being at the booth maybe quite as much, but it is definitely a larger responsibility. So I think as an exhibitor right now, it's really fun. But if I knew what I know now, going back as an attendee would be pretty awesome.
I was an attendee and now an exhibitor, and I always, when people come on who were attendees before, I'm like, your feet are different. There is a different foot tired versus standing in one booth all day and being confined to, I don't care if it's 400 square feet or 1,600 square feet. You're still confined in this, and there's something about your feet being a different type of tired rather than walking up and down the aisles. And I'm always like,
totally,
I don't know why, but your feet hurt worse not walking all over the place as they do.
I completely agree. And I will say, this is a hot tip on the shoes. The best thing to do is wear different shoes each day.
I do that. Yes.
And it's funny because it never made sense to me. The first year I went out of my way to get these Ortho Clarks, I was going to wear the most comfortable shoe. And by day 3, I felt crippled and I was like, what am I doing wrong? And somebody said, try a different pair. And it just hurts a different part of your foot.
It spreads that love around.
Yeah, it's just like nagging on a different part of your foot that didn't get nagged in the other shoes. So that's my hot tip.
With your broad relationship that you've had, with IAAPA, how do you see it as a unique opportunity for professionals in the industry?
Yeah, I think obviously just having everything in one place. It's big. So it can be overwhelming, but I think people need to look outside of that, especially in the FEC space. Because I'm going to speak to the FEC LBE space more than anything. And I think there's something to be learned from everyone. If you're an FEC owner, even if it's a small FEC with maybe 2 attractions and a snack bar and 1 party room, you can still learn something from Disney. You can still learn something from Universal. So I think you need to go with the most open mind, and you need to talk to as many people as you can. I think the education is massively valuable, if not for anything, just to sit in front of your contemporaries or people you might never get a chance to speak to and connect with them. Or even you might sit in the crowd and hear something that you find, controversial or helpful, and turn to the person next to you and create some sort of connection or bond or learning experience. So I think networking is probably one of the biggest things that I would tell people you need to walk away with and walk in wanting to do. And I think take time, like, even if you're very happy with something, like say you love the person you buy your soft pretzels from, it doesn't mean that you can't meet another food vendor and realize that you could save money and you like their ordering process. And I'm not saying cheat on who you're with. And I'm all about loyalty, and I'm all about, working with people that you feel that connection with and you get the good service from, but go with an open mind. That's really the biggest thing, and be ready and willing to talk to anyone.
I agree that the education is probably, like, bar none. There's no other trade show that does as much education during that week as IAAPA does.
Yeah. So
it's not.
There's over 100 sessions, and those are all included with your membership. And then the largest constituency of sessions is the FEC space, and that doesn't even include the lunches and some of the other extra programming they have. So of all the constituencies, they get the largest chunk of sessions. So if there's an FEC in front of it, that was intentionally designed for FECs and LBEs. But like, there was a session last year, I believe it was last year, it might have been last year, that had they talked about lighting and thematic lighting. And yeah, it was for it was for one of the big parks. But I think if you go and you say, all right, they had a $3 million budget, I have $3,000 budget, but just knowing that adding a black light here and up lights here and a ring light there would make somebody 10 times more likely to get a visually like good selfie that they'll actually want to post, is going to do wonders for you. So you don't have to go in and say, oh, I don't have $3 million. You might have 3,000, and you can still do something with that.
I know that you just said one of your biggest things about IAAPA that you saw was networking, but it can be overwhelming. You've also mentioned, like, it can seem overwhelming. There's 100 education sessions. There's tons of people that you won't know every time you turn. So can you share some tips that you may have picked up or seen other people do successfully for effective networking at IAAPA Expo?
Yeah, for sure. I think sessions are a great place to talk to people. When you're on the show floor, getting to know some vendors. If you go into a booth and you talk to a vendor, like, you might find one that you click with. Like when I started, think about, like I said before, I started at IAAPA a week, like I said, 2.5 weeks or whatever before the show. I latched on to my committee members because I had, they were already talking. And then, I met Beth, and then I shortly later met you guys. And so I just made it a point that if I was in a large room, I had a person that I could say, like, hey, like, I'm going to tag along with you, introduce me to as many people as you can. And people want to do that. It's not a gatekeeping industry. Like we want more friends and we want more connections. And I would say the best way to do it is just find somebody. There's going to be at least one person who can help push you to 3 more people. So I would say that, or just find a commonality. Like walking by someone, you already have their first name, their last name, where they work, and where they're from. So you can easily walk up to someone and say, oh, I've never been to Cincinnati. Or, like, oh, that's my grandmother's maiden name. Like, it's not weird. It's posted there. So, I like to start with a compliment. That's a good way to break the ice with people too.
Yes. Also, if there is somebody who has spoken at one of the education sessions, or Alyse mentioned rookies and newcomers, that I know programming has a lot of like heart and dedication put to it. If it's someone who's speaking or running one of those sessions, they're probably a connector. And so to go to their booth, whether it's Beth who has spoken at things, I know, there's Sherry Howell from Center Edge who speaks at quite a few things, like to say, hey, I went to your session and I loved it. And I'm looking for other family entertainment centers that have bowling as an anchor and is expanding to include other attractions, and should be like they want to connect you with others. That's why Beth, I
Yeah.
know, loves to say, oh, you need to meet my good friend, because everyone's a good friend of Beth. And she'll take you all around. And so look for those people who did like run a panel or speak, and go introduce yourself to them. If you are looking for a connector between, because you aren't that person that likes to do that, find the person who will do that for you.
Yeah, totally. And at the sessions, like right after the sessions end, majority of the speakers will stick around and will be there for you to talk, ask questions during sessions. That's huge. And then like I always say, this is my biggest thing. If you go with a group from your venue or friends or family, when I worked at Kennedy Space Center, our COO used to always yell at us like, too many red shirts. So on a launch day, we wore these hideous, sorry, Theron, hideous red polo shirts that said launch team on the back. And if we were clustered together while we had thousands of people flooding into the park to see a launch, he would always say, too many red shirts, break it up, break it up. And still to this day, 5-6 years later, I always think about that. Like even in like Roller's booth, I'll be like, too many roller shirts, too many roller shirts. And, don't stick to your people. Like if you go to a lunch, sit at different tables. Or if it's 3 of you, find a table that has 5 people that you can meld in with. Like be open to it. Because if you're sitting at a meal, inevitably you're going to talk to them. So
definitely. And we already are in kind of experiential industry. People can't help themselves but to chat it up and be friendly with each other. And so don't be scared of them. You mentioned IAAPA is overwhelming, and quick story for me. I did not think of this industry as a career until I went to IAAPA. Like I came from the hospitality industry. I understood all the trade shows and like where a hospitality could take you. And then my franchise group owned a location-based entertainment, and says, hey, we need your help over there. And I was like, okay, and thought it was going to be like a stopgap to the next thing that I was going to, until I went to IAAPA and I was like, oh, this isn't just a job. Like there's full on like a myriad of careers and things, but it was overwhelming. And I tell people now, I'm like, do you know those big parking lot carnivals? And people, because those come to all towns all over the country, and people are like, yeah, I'm like, think of that a biggest ride that you see in that parking lot. That is a thumbprint in the center of IAAPA. Like it really is that small. So it can be so overwhelming, and there's so much to see, and it can be so exciting. What advice do you give people for IAAPA to ensure they attend the right sessions, they get the most out of their time, they meet the people they want to meet? Like, what are those tips that you like to give out?
Yeah, I actually think that that was something that was developed for when I was leaving IAAPA. We talked about developing for rookies and newcomers, was like kind of a roadmap. So I always tell people, identify. Unfortunately, a lot of the booths are not necessarily in the spaces that like it's called, right? So like Roller, we're operational services, and we primarily work in the FEC LBE space, some water parks and other stuff, but we're in the water park area of the trade show floor, just because there wasn't space in, and we're our company's only hasn't been around as long as some of the other companies that were able to take the space ahead of us. But so I would say, look at the map and know where to start. And then the other side of it is write down, maybe even if you print out a map, whatever it is, I would write down the things you're looking for. Are you looking for, redemption items? Are you looking for a new game? Are you looking for a new attraction? Are you looking for a feasibility study? Are you looking for a new POS software? Are you looking for a way to streamline your systems? Like, what are you looking for? Like, what are your problems? And I'm not a negative person, but like, what are you looking to fix? And then that way, you're going to walk in and you're going to, like Candi said, you're going to be drawn to the roller coaster in the middle of the show floor, or the giant wall of, Mario Karts, and, the giant Pac-Man, or
I used to get sidetracked by the Halloween section. They have
oh my God,
pulled it off and made their own trade show. And so it's not as big as it used to be. But that for years I'd be like, okay, I did all my stuff. Can I go look at the Halloween stuff now?
Yeah. I always found myself like the mascots. I know that sounds so stupid and weird, but I always found that the people with their mascot costumes, they're always like dancing around. They always have good music and stuff. And I always found it like so cute when I would be running through, like, especially during the show when I worked there. So just find what you're looking for. And the reality is like, if you end up at like the roller booth and you meet me, which I'd love for people to come say hi because I love new friends. And you say to me like, hey, like I really need to figure out redemption, or I need to figure out, we want to do mini golf, but we don't know where to start. Like I can send you to a couple places, not because I'm referring you or I have some relationship or something. I know some people who might be able to give them information, or I might be able to give information. And if you know what you're looking for, then you can start. It's like going to an airport and not knowing where you're flying. It's going to be a real confusing experience. So it is overwhelming if you don't have a goal. But if you don't have a goal, like say you really don't know and you're really just going for exploration, then just put on comfy shoes and just prepare to walk up and down all 10 miles of aisles. That's what it equals. That's a real thing.
It really is about that much.
Yeah. Did you ever approach it that way, Candi? Like with
with when I worked and came as an attendee, I always had like for us running a franchise, sometimes that was the once a year I saw some of the vendors in person that we worked with all year round, because we were based in Atlanta, they were based in Chicago or wherever, and so or out in Nebraska, and so I didn't see them. And so I made sure like that was the first step one for me, is who do I already work with that I would like to talk to and have a connection with, and I got them on a schedule. And then my step two would be the education sessions, and I'd work those into my schedule. And funny that you talked about too many red shirts. If I took people with me, we weren't allowed to go to the same education session. Like we had to go to separate ones that were at the same time. And then I did my wants list and compared it against like what I love. And I don't think they're printing them anymore, and it makes me very sad. But I
know they don't do printed guides anymore
of the IAAPA book. So you can bring an old one though, and or you can ask, but like, or you can go online, and I would look for training, and I'd be like, who does training? And then I'd be like, okay, so if I were looking for a training thing, at one point I was looking for, party software when we first started, doing online booking. So I listed all of the party, online modules that did that, and I listed them. So that then I made the priority to go see them first. Yeah. And then I would let myself just like wander and go see glitter, get a glitter tattoo, and eat one of those beaver tails, and all of those things that
the giant cup of Skittles. Yeah, I think that's definitely a way to go. And setting appointments, that's a really good thing. I'm glad you said that, because identifying your current ones or any companies you want to meet with, a lot of them will have show specials, or they'll be launching new products or things of that sort. So like set those appointments. Like for Roller, I have a giant calendar with our 6 workstations that you can book into, and my account executives and account managers and myself, we're booking people into those even already. So that's definitely the way to go. Like book those appointments, and they don't, you're right, they don't have the printed guides anymore, but the new app Connect Plus is really solid. Okay. I had a lot of years to get used to it. So I know, like, I take that with a grain of salt because it takes time to get used to these, but Connect Plus even allows you to message other attendees and stuff if you give permission to. And you can do the same kind of stuff. You can type in like the item or something that'll fall in the description. And then you can also, if you like a session, you can add it to your schedule, and then it'll literally have your agenda. It can even send you alerts to remind you, like, your session in SD 230A is starting, is starting in 10 minutes. So you can even set alerts. You can do all kinds of stuff. So shout out to Connect Plus, because I loved that app. FEC Summit 2021 or 2022 was the first time that app was used, and it was awesome.
I love it. I'll miss the printed guys because I use them as
me too.
Almost like it's almost like the industry yellow pages. Like if I'm like, oh, there's someone who does, I saw somebody at IAAPA who did climbing walls. Let me look, and I'll be like, climbing walls. Oh, it's whoever. So,
yeah,
but,
for sure.
Okay, I'm going to flip the coin for you. We've been talking a little bit about attendees, but how can exhibitors, and this is kind of what you're doing for Roller, really better make their presence known in IAAPA. It is such a big trade show floor. And how do they like make their presence known, become memorable at these large scale events where you're competing with, I mean, like literally people can walk down an aisle, not for you guys at 1,600 square feet, but can maybe not even see you if they're not looking.
Yeah, I mean, reality, I mean, full stop, like even 1,600 square feet, you can walk by and not know it. It's such a big trade show floor. And, you know, we're a software company. So our booth is very like sharp, like Apple Store, like very clean lines, like, you know, we wear like all black, like it's very like clean and slick. But like, you know, 100 feet away, there's a freaking roller coaster. Like I wasn't kidding about that. There's a roller
Yes.
coaster. So you're right. No, there's nothing we can really do to say that you have to come by. I do think if your budget allows it or your space allows it, hanging signs are effective. I mean, they're not super cheap, but they are effective to help people. Not only telling people your booth number, but maybe even giving them an idea of how to find you.
Yes.
That's important. I think having people at the show that are ready to talk to people. Like I feel like one of those mall kiosk people when I'm at shows, but like I stand on the edge of the booth and I say hi to someone, even if they're not interested. Like, not because I'm trying to be annoying or like force them in, but sometimes saying hi to someone else makes them feel more comfortable to talk to you. It can be intimidating going up to a booth. Even if all they want is a pen, and that's fine too. Like, we know that having those pens there is possibly somebody taking that home and then later being like, oh, right, I should look into them. So don't ever be afraid to like reach out to people and talk to people. If you're busy and you have a lot going on, try to look up and make eye contact. I think if you have budget, a lot of the sponsorships are pretty effective opportunities. Attending events that happen even prior, partnering with other vendors, possibly to have different events, take clients to dinner, different things of that sort. But I think as far as it's concerned, your social posts should give people some insight, like find your way to the blue carpet. Or like if you have a friend or a partner that has a big hanging sign, if you're a smaller booth, you can give an idea, like say, walk just past the roller coaster to your left. Or if you see the hanging Betson sign, we're just right behind them. Like there's nothing wrong with that too. Because the last thing you want is somebody to be like, spend, you know, an hour trying to find you. And the carpet colors is a great way to even start as well.
I know Beth has on her wish list is a hanging sign. We have not acquired one yet. It's harder when you're in a line, and where a lot of times we're in the line. And the other thing, but I agree with you, like people inevitably, Beth says all the time, buy from people. And so by having someone on your staff in the booth who's almost like the MC, like they're there to say, hi, how's it going? You guys enjoying? Even if they're not, don't want to come in, like what's the funnest thing you've seen today? Just to have a connection point to where you're right. I do think, and I remember going as an attendee, like, I don't want to use the word like superior and inferior, but like as an attendee, I did not feel as important as the exhibitors, you know? And so to go and use their time, when I wasn't quite sure what they offered or stuff, I was not one that would always do that. So for someone to say, hey, how's it going? Like what's their best thing? And have that opener would let me feel more comfortable walking in and asking questions about maybe what they do or any of those things.
You know, and actually what you said there, you kind of brought up something that we're very conscious of, making sure that you show effectively what you do. You don't have to give it all away. Like you don't need a poster up that says, hi, we're Trainertainment. We do training, and like list everything out, because then they have nothing to ask you.
Yeah.
But at least saying like, you know, giving a bit of a tease for them to know. I mean, your name kind of says it.
Yes.
But for roller, like we're a great example where people automatically think we're like roller skating or we're something. Like a lot of people go to a different way with us, but you know, we make sure that our taglines and any stuff that we have, our hanging signs, talk about different features and things of that sort. So giving people enough to kind of know what you're there for and what you do, but not too much to where they have nothing to ask you.
I think that's an awesome tip. As we know, all trade shows, not just IAAPA, are so much more about the relationships that are formed. Can you share some stories or examples of how, and I didn't realize that they threw you in 2.5 weeks after you started to IAAPA, like that is, I am just now realizing that, about how attending these industry events like have positively impacted your career or businesses that you've been involved in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm like a Cinderella story in that in so many ways. Like I'm like a great example of how much this industry really can help. I think Beth is in a lot of ways too, but she's given so much back as well. For me, I've made like lifelong friends. I mean, one of my most favorite conversations probably in my lifetime was, waiting for the show to open in Las Vegas. And it was our first show back post pandemic. And it was with you. And we talked about like something that could have potentially been contentious or controversial to some people, but we had the best time. So it's grown me as a human, right? So the connections, like people like you, people like Beth, everyone, even people who now are in a similar space to what I am. As far as professionally, it's just grown me to be more confident in what I'm doing and who I am. When my husband got a job that was going to move us away from Orlando, I was obviously going to move with my husband, and he works in professional sports. So he kind of just has to go wherever it's going. And, remote wasn't an option. So I had to kind of take the risk of leaving IAAPA, which is kind of scary because working at IAAPA gives you access to so many people and to so much. And, and I don't use this term lightly, but I was really blessed with a lot of opportunity because I knew so many people and I really, really developed the relationships with people. And, during the pandemic, like being on, on the calls, the trainer entertainment calls that we did, those relationships, like everyone became my family. So when I put it out there that I was moving and, I was able to kind of actually really take a step back and choose what was the right journey for me. So I think professionally building those relationships and genuinely building them, there's no one in this industry that's gotten like a fake version of me. They've gotten, me, whether it's serious side, goofy side, super helpful side, whatever it is, just be your authentic self and build those relationships in a genuine way. And it'll help to mold the world around you to lift you up and what you're best at. Like I'm a firm believer in developing your strengths and not focusing on your weaknesses. So just, I don't know, not to like throw in like this, but it's true. Like I think, it was hard when working at IAAPA in the position I was in. I was looked at as somebody who was supposed to help solve problems or, be a voice for a lot of people. And that's a lot of pressure. And especially during the time it was. But I think what I did is it taught me to like just learn so much about a lot of people and learn about people. So yeah, I would say building genuine relationships and giving back when and where you can is just the way to go.
Awesome. Well, what can we expect to see from Roller? And what is the Roller booth number this year?
It's 2849. We've got a cool L-shaped booth this year.
Interesting.
I know, it's very neat. We took a little risk this year. We're going a little different, but I'm so excited about it. And it's located, it's between like the water park and F&B. It's kind of just to the side of the bathrooms actually, which makes it easy to find because there's giant signs for those too, but we'll have some hanging signs. We have some new product features that we're coming out with. So I would love for people to come by and learn some about it. And IAAPA is the show of the year in the US where a lot of the people from our headquarters in Australia come to visit. So you've got a lot of the people who are actually developing the product in the background. So the hard-hitting questions that I'm going to just look at you like you're that Albert Einstein meme with all the coming out of it. You have the people there that can answer those questions too. So that's a big thing for us, just some new features and just having access to the people you want to talk to about the product as well.
Super exciting. Yeah. All right. We have a signature question, as you know. So what are you doing these days to consistently grow yourself? I know you've been for a little over a year living in a brand new town and things like that. What have you been doing? You've had some
I
career
have
changes?
started something new and I was so excited because this time I have a very objective answer to this question. I'm
Okay.
so excited. I started time blocking. So
Interesting.
working fully remote, not only working fully remote, but also everyone on my team is 14 hours ahead across the world. So I don't get to collaborate that much. So sometimes I use the time blocking method, just Google it or find social media methods. And there's some apps that can help with it. But I just, as we were talking about earlier, when you have different responsibilities, like my partnerships or events, um, it helps me to focus on one thing for a chunk of time. And then there's like this definitive, like, all right, stop, reset, go into this. So I started time blocking and I feel like I don't think I'll ever go back. I never thought I'd be this person, but here I am. So time blocking is my definitive thing. And and I'm also trying to be really conscious of my time when I'm not physically working as well.
I love it. All right. Well, I'm sure that people will fall in love with you, just like I love you so much, Alyse. So where can people find you if they want to learn more about you or if
Yeah.
they want to learn more about roller?
Yeah. Honestly, LinkedIn, I know that's kind of the answer you get from most people on here, but I would say my LinkedIn's the best way to go. And it's just Alyse Sklover, and just search me up, and just, you don't even have to follow me or send a quirky message. You can just connect with me, because I think there's no such thing as a bad connection at this point. So come talk to me. I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time today. And I can't wait to see you at IAAPA.
Can't wait. It's been a while. So I'll see you in just a few weeks. Can't
I
believe it.
know, crazy. All right. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Wasn't Alyse wonderful? I am so thankful that she chose to spend some time sharing her tips and tricks and just her experiences about IAAPA Expo with all of you as we prepare for the big event. As she mentioned, don't forget to go check out Roller. Their booth number is 2849, and you can check us out at IAAPA as well. You'll have myself there, Beth will be there, we'll have Dan and Jerome and Genevieve and Denise all there, well, ready to welcome you. You can catch us at booth number 4656. I want to thank you for your time today. And for choosing to join us. I know there's a lot of ways you can spend your time, so I'm always thankful when you spend that time listening to Think Tank. I again want to thank my 2023 digital sponsors that you see over there. And then if you have a Think Tank idea, if you want to be a guest on Think Tank or you'd like to sponsor a Think Tank episode, please contact me. You can catch me at Candi at trainertainment.net. And then be sure to check out where you can connect with us in real life. As I mentioned, we'll be at IAAPA at booth number 4656, but we're always going to other events. And you can check our appearances and upcoming events out at trainertainment.net. Thank you all, and I'll catch you on the next episode.